Story we are tracking just about a day before elections in the national capital. The Aam Aadmi Party, the Bharatiya Janata Party and the Congress have upped their ante in the run-up to the Delhi elections of 2025. All three parties have announced schemes to woo voters in poll-bound Delhi. They have made tens of promises to fulfill the need of the poor, the middle class, women, youth, priests, among other sections of the society, if they come to power in Delhi after winning Delhi Assembly elections. So what are these promises, and does the math add up? We'll be talking about all of that. But on your screens right now, freebies as far as youth is concerned. Aam Aadmi Party suggesting a scholarship. BJP says it will be giving more money in the hands of youth. And finally, Congress Party saying that there will be an allocation of about 8,500 per person for an apprenticeship for a year. That is as far as youth is concerned. Shifting focus to elderlies now. Aam Aadmi Party saying that we'll make treatment free. At the same time, BJP is saying we're going to give you pensions of about 2,500 rupees per elderly, someone who's aged between 60 to 70 years, and a pension of 3,000 for those who are above 70 years of age. Let's take a look at women now. Big promises there made for women. Aam Aadmi Party says we're going to give you 2,100 rupees a month as part of the Mahila Samman Yojana. Of course, there's a criteria. You have to be aged above 18 years. BJP is saying we're giving you more. We'll give you 2,500 rupees if we come to power. And Congress Party is also saying we'll offer you 2,500 rupees as far as the Pyari Didi Yojana, which was announced in their manifesto. So an attempt being made by almost every political party which was in fray to woo the voters of the national capital. What does it really mean for the math? Let's talk about that. Gopal Krishna Agrawal, national spokesperson for the BJP Economic Affairs, joining us on the show. Also with us is Shubhamoy Bhattacharjee, author and contributing editor to Business Standard. My colleague Rakesh Khar, editor News9 Mediaverse. All three gentlemen joining us live this morning. Rakesh, I want to begin with you. Ravery politics at its best. Almost everybody is offering it now.
Absolutely, Shweta. Good morning to all our panelists and to you as well. Ravery politics is at a premium. It's possibly winning votes, but at a huge cost. The fiscal match is obviously going for a toss. Unfortunately, each and every political party has, so to say, gone in for this kind of, political mandate. And the results, I see maybe not in the immediate framework, but in the medium and long term are going to be disastrous from the fiscal perspective. I do remember, I'm going to take you back to the budget presented by P. Chidambaram. It was called a historic budget in 2008, which gave the largest ever dole, if it was called then, was 60,000 crore farm loan waiver. I would wonder today if we do an audit of what exactly has happened with those farmers, whether they've actually gained. I really don't think, such kind of, waivers and farm loans and now Ravery, these new lexicons that have entered the political economy of India, are really going to bring about some large-scale change at the grassroots level. I am all for politics of empowerment rather than politics of entitlement. There is a nuanced difference between the two. And unfortunately, I had, imagined in the COVID time, the BJP-led government with Prime Minister Modi had taken a conscious call to steer clear of, this politics of entitlement and so to say, subverted tremendous pressure to give universal basic income, which was being favored by the leader of the, by the opposition. And it steered the fiscal path. And the results of that were a strong growing economy. But now with each election after election, this temptation, to give doles out as cash handouts is not good for economy. These are crutches which are not going to build the true potential of each and every individual of this country. We need to make 140 crore people stand on their feet. And crutches are never a lasting solution.
All right. Crutches are not a lasting solution. Let's quickly get in Gopal Krishna Agrawal. Gopal, do you agree crutches are not lasting solutions? While on one hand, we are hoping to find some sort of balance between social security as well as economic prosperity. We're looking at huge numbers here as far as women is concerned. Now, that is one of the biggest vote bank for any political party in the national capital. Just one poll promise alone of giving 2,500 rupees per year to each woman is going to cost about 18,000 crore rupees per year. This is more than the education budget for the national capital. How fair is it?
I think we have to differentiate between what is free. freebies or dole and what is for the empowerment of that section particularly. If you don't make that differentiation, it is quite difficult to analyze it properly. The thing is that we as a nation and the government is a social welfare scheme. That's the responsibility given by the constitution. You have to work for the welfare of the every sections of the society, whether it is women, poor, or youth or senior citizen. And those who are vulnerable, they have to be taken care more than other persons. So there are two ways. The person who are in the working population are strong enough to work. For them, the government has to provide an ecosystem of entrepreneurship, employment, employment, other economic activities. So we, as a government, we are, and for the other section which is vulnerable, you have to go for welfare schemes. What our Modi ji is doing is that we are taking care of both. Our economy is growing at a very fast pace. We are one of the fastest growing economy in the world. We are now fifth largest. We target to become the third largest economy in the world. Our FDI is strong and we have a strong reserves also more than $700 billion. GDP growth rate is very high compared to other nations. And we want to aspire to become a Viksit Bharat by 2047. So on the economic front, whether it is mobile industry, manufacturing industry, space technology, IT, AI, green energy, all these segments are very well taken care of by our government under Modi ji in the central budget and the central government provision. The
Okay.
second part is through the welfare. So what we are doing is providing for the welfare in the budget of the government. If you don't provide for the welfare in the budget and announce them without taking care of targeted delivery, efficiency in delivery, then controlling the leakages and doing nepotism, that is complex. So it is ultimately falls on governance. How efficient your governance model is. If your governance model is good, efficient, and takes care of targeted delivery, and also on economic front, you have to see in the all the four aspects that
All
I have
right.
underlined. Yeah,
All right.
I
No,
cannot
but
say.
I have to ask you, as far as the efficiency model of Aam Aadmi Party is concerned, I'm looking at the numbers and the numbers are suggesting that despite all the freebies that they had to offer and everything that the BJP and Congress opposed to in the last 10 years of Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi, their debt to GDP ratio is about 3%, just over 3%, which is better than many states. They are, spending about 15 to 18% of the total budget on freebies and subsidies, which is again not very bad. So are you suggesting at this point in time that Aam Aadmi Party is doing well? And if yes, how is BJP likely to differ with respect to what it's offering the people of Delhi?
I told you have to not only look after the welfare of certain sections as a vote bank, you have to also work for the economic growth and development. What is the status of environment in Delhi? What is the status of water? What they are doing in the electricity companies, they are not providing, they are giving subsidy on the electric, at the low rate electricity to the citizen of India. At the same time, the government is not paying the electricity charges to those companies, and those companies are creating regulatory assets in their books. The company discoms in Delhi are not charging electricity for 200 unit from the people of the state, but they are also not being paid by the government.
Okay.
This way is a fraud on the people. The companies are just creating regulatory assets and taking bank loans. This is bad economics. You have to understand. I told you, freebies is a wrong word at use sometimes. You have to look after the welfare, at the same time look after the economic growth and the governance. Complete failure of governance in Aam Aadmi Party. You see the scams, or their leaders are in jail. Yamuna has not been clarified. Environment is a problem. Jal board is a problem. Then electricity, I have told you. Then education, the Mohalla clinic, the way they are advertising only and nothing, doing nothing for the Mohalla clinic.
Okay.
So
Okay.
these governance and welfare together, and also how you will generate the resources. It is good that Delhi has a positive budget,
Right.
but see the fall of budgetary provisions over the year.
Okay.
So governance is a failure. If the governance is failure, simply welfare for the vote bank politics is bad. But if you are also doing governance, good economics, economic growth, then delivering on environment, other concerns of the people,
Understood.
and at the same time welfare with
Yeah.
a transparent mechanism.
Right.
There is no
Understood. So good
transparent
budget, but governance failure. I think that's the takeaway as far as Aam Aadmi Party is concerned. Shubhamoy Bhattacharjee, do you think this is freebie politics or this is about welfare? Because, Gopal Krishna Agrawal says this is welfare politics. This is not freebie politics. We are helping the downtrodden. We are helping those who want most of our help. But are we suggesting 71 lakh women are all in need of help in the national capital? Are they all downtrodden, or do they all want, some sort of money support every year in order to operate and do well in the country?
Or Shweta,
That's a problem.
80 crore people
Where
slowly
does the difference
being
between
national.
welfare and freebie come along? Rakesh was actually making a very good point that we are all for giving support where it's needed, but that is a very fine distinction. Ultimately, two things. First of all, looking at it number, is it better to try to give welfare by handing out cash is the biggest problem. If that is so, then we don't need a government. If cash is to be simply given, then just set up an ATM machine. People can simply be given a card, they go out there and they have got a cash and that's it. Why do we need governance? A governance is supposed to be for help, for creating things which the private sector will not be able to do, which is necessary, the government also thinks will be necessary for the society. Delhi is an unusual position. Why? Because Delhi has a huge budget, not because of any government, but simply because of the fact that it's a rich city. Delhi can afford to give money, but the estimates that are created, but the example that is created is dangerous for the rest of the country. Do you realize that Delhi's money that is being given out is also being used by AAP for Punjab? And Punjab has no way the finances that Delhi has, but the ambition of giving out freebies in the same way that Delhi is giving. Now that's dangerous, very dangerous. What's the other thing? That despite being a cash-rich city, Delhi's capital estimate outlay in 23-24 is 25% lower than budgeted. Between FY15 to FY23, on average, Delhi has spent 39% lower on capital outlay than budgeted. This is much higher, much worse than the average underspending on capital outlay by states at 19%. So what's happening? Essentially, the state had the money, went out to give it to the people. In the process, it cut down on capital expenditure, which is very necessary. All the things that is necessary has been cut down by, as I said, 39%, nearly 40% lower capital outlay than budgeted. So every year you're cutting down on capital outlay. And this in a city which can actually afford not to do so. So there is a major pressure that is developing. You talked about the state GDP ratio to debt to GDP ratio. Delhi is comfortable, but hang on. Delhi is borrowing, is becoming, once you're doing these things, its borrowing rate is rising. Why should Delhi be in that sort of a situation? And as I said, if you have the example that Delhi sets of a financially very rich city, yet going down the same route of freebie, then other states which do not have that capacity will be equally interested in doing so. Because obviously, if cash is going to be used to get votes, then there is no reason for governments to govern. And that's a very big problem. That's a very big problem. This, we can talk about it even more. But
Right.
that's why these are my first comments. Yeah.
All right. A big problem, Rakesh. What we are looking at is that capital outlay spends on, on acquiring, maintaining, improving assets is abysmally low, as, Shubhamoy pointed out, about 40% lower than what was budgeted. Vis-a-vis the subsidies and the revenue expenditure on all subsidies, that is growing at a very fast clip. So if one were to look at it mathematically, it looks like fiscal math is going out of window.
That's what I said in my opening comment, Shweta. There are states which are little comfortable today, but it's about tomorrow and day after. That's where the problem is. Overall combined state, debt to GDP ratio with center is not in a very comfortable position. I am making a point irrespective of all political parties, which I think nobody can be sane in terms of, going in for this revenue politics. They're all in it for votes, and they might be entitled politically, but economically it's a disaster. 3 points I want to make. First and foremost, there are no free lunches. So someone is paying for this. Who is paying for this? The sanity of your balance sheet as a country, as a state goes for toss. Second, I would imagine, I had requested and put in my column that the finance minister in the budget as a revolutionary bold reform should have put a moratorium, should have announced a moratorium on all such schemes, because we have elections later this year in Bihar. So we'll see a second episode of this coming up front. So, if the state governments and the center don't resist this temptation, I may be a little radical in asking for the Supreme Court to intervene, which is anyway, has heard this in an interim manner, to intervene and say that, we have to look at going away from this cash incentive. I mean, Shubhama is absolutely right. You just install ATMs all over the country, and then, people will access cash. So the entire argument is not against welfare mechanism. The argument is against cash rollout. It really cripples your own individual capability to, strike your own deal. And lastly, the point about India is Indian economy is World Bank, IMF has been repeatedly talking about triggering the women GDP. Now look at the irony of it. At one level, we are talking about triggering the women GDP, which is the only way to have a double-digit growth in this country. And the state politicians, the central government, all are going to woo women voters, which looks so nice, very nice, a very, very fashionable political statement. But you are not allowing them to, you have to create policies to bring them back into the economic fold where they contribute to the GDP. They're independent economically. So where are those policies? They've completely moved away from the political discourse, which is very sad.
Gopal Krishna Agrawal, I think it's a fair argument. Rather than giving money in the hands of people, why not empower them to earn more for themselves? And if a substantial part of the current, GDP is being spent, or the budget is being spent towards subsidies, and something that the BJP has opposed for quite a while now, since Aam Aadmi Party was in power, it looks like to every person out there that BJP and the Congress party and any other opposition that were to be in Delhi is actually following the same model of freebies, or of what you call as empowerment.
If we don't look into the solution of this whole problem, then we are just doing an academic discussion at any place of time. I very well know that freebies which are currently going out are a problem area. What is the solution? It is not going to stop like this, because welfare is also a requirement of the government. What we can do is, as a solution, that provide them in the budget properly and talk about the fiscal consolidation. You see, what I'll give you two examples. Karnataka transferred they promised, in Congress government in Karnataka promised so many freebies, and later on, when they won the election, they divert 40,000 crore from the development project fund to providing the promises. So that is bad. In Himachal, they announced NPS and other schemes, and then they did not have their provision in the budget to at least give them. What we are doing in the center is, you see in this budget, we have a fiscal deficit of 4.9% into the last budget year. This year we have kept a target of 4.4%. Still, we have given a big relief to the middle class. We have given relief to many other things. So this is the solution. Provide them, look after the fiscal consolidation, look into the resources, targeted welfare, leakages, etc., nepotism, corruption, etc., have to be removed, etc. Then it is a welfare. Otherwise, it's just a vote bank politics. This differentiation, if academic discussions and governance and in people who understand these things are not taking place, and no clear narrative is built, otherwise this is not going to stop. This is a welfare. This is a requirement, and with democracy that we have, these are not going to go away like this in academic discussions. You have to talk on the narrative that budgetary provisions is a must. You have to talk about FRBM, fiscal consolidation roadmap, and not talk about out of balance sheet provisions like Delhi is doing in for the discom companies, or earlier Congress did it for the oil bond by issuing oil bonds, etc. These are very important. Though this is a complicated discussion, but I tell you that without this proper budgetary provisions and fiscal roadmap, fiscal consolidation roadmap, and managing balances and good governance. This is freebies. Otherwise, it's a welfare. This distinction we have to understand very clearly. In the center, we have implemented it, understood it, but the state government under oppositions are not doing it. Delhi's example,
Right.
Karnataka I have given, Himachal I have given, Punjab, other panelists have given the example of Punjab. So I think this distinction is very important.
This distinction is important. Unfortunately, it does look like right now, Gopal Krishna Agrawal, that all political parties they're in the same pit. They're playing with the same set of rules, and nobody is really standing out. So we want this discourse to go beyond, of course, academia right now, but nobody is really standing out by the way of what they have to offer. But before I let you go, gentlemen, Shubhamoy, Rakesh, first coming to you, Shubhamoy, it does look like when people of Delhi are voting tomorrow, I think they will really be choosing between whether I should get 2100 or 2500, because this is literally, money for who I vote for. More money in my hand if I vote for one party, a little less money perhaps if I vote for another. But governance, fiscal math, everything that would be important to ensure long-term growth for Delhi is not being kept into account.
Shweta, the budget this year, the annual, the financial, the one which Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman presented, has a brilliant statistic. How much of the money that has been given by the center to the state from the centrally sponsored schemes is spent unspent. We used to get it after several years of the CAG report. Right now, her budget is showing data as on 31st December 24, cash sitting in states not used. So what's happening? Why is that happening? And you know what's the percentage? It is 30% of the centrally sponsored scheme cash sitting with the states which have not been used. If the states try to use it very fast, then what they'll use it recklessly. Why are they not able to use it even after 10 months of the budget? Simply because spending on plan schemes and others requires planning, requires analysis, requires space for governance. You talked about governance. The freebie politics has actually taken away the interest of the states to go for governance. Anganwadi schemes has got an unspent budget of 12,000 crore. Midday meal scheme has got an unspent budget of 6,000 crore. Why is this happening? It's happening because the states find that giving out cash, as you say, that's a choice between 2,100 and 2,500, is so much more easy. So what is happening is freebies is not just electing government, it's doing another thing much more dangerous. It is erasing the capacity of the states to do governance.
Right.
So the more freebies there'll be less governance capacity, even if cash is there. Cash is there in the system, but they are not able to do it because most states are becoming crippled by their lack of ability. Their bureaucrats would have lost the ability, would have lost the thought of how to do this thing. This is a serious challenge that is developing. And I think that is the thing that needs to be pointed out, that states are becoming less efficient in terms of administering schemes.
Okay.
That worries me a lot. Yes, Shweta.
Okay. A dangerous, precedent there, Rakesh. When it comes to governance, perhaps governance taking a back seat, but giving out doles to people, more money to people, that's taking a precedence, and therefore stripping, many governments in many states from really coming out ways with which you can really, lead to long-term development. Easy money dole-outs are now becoming a better alternative.
Absolutely, what Shubhamoy pointed out is the collateral damage that is happening because of this incentive for cash for votes. I'm sorry using that word, that terminology again, but that's what it is. A voter, you can't blame the voter. The voter is going to go up for something that is relevant to him. What is relevant to him is that I'm getting cash in hand, and as I keep saying, this incapacitates your own capability to stand on your own feet. which is not in India's interest, which is not in states' interest. And the second most important thing is the schemes that we are looking at, central and states. Someday, in the near future, we have to get away from the politics about implementing schemes. Look at the, scheme that we have in Delhi, Mohalla Clinic. Why can't we have both the schemes running concurrently? Why can't the, Indian citizen benefit from both the schemes? But this politics about central schemes not being implemented in the states and center at times because of political reasons criticizing schemes which may be genuinely good. These are challenges that we face as a polity, and we need to address them as not just politicians but as those who are looking at the maths as well.
All right, and the clock is ticking as far as Delhi elections is concerned. Gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us, for putting this in perspective. It's going to be a tough choice for people of Delhi. I have to give it to them for who they will vote for tomorrow. Where will they cast their ballot? But as far as Freebies is concerned, there is plenty to choose from. Thank you very much for joining us, gentlemen, on this broadcast.